Time again, another episode of Unfiltered, and we are live here on a Saturday night. It is good to have you on board as always. Get us on Apple, Spotify, everywhere you get your podcasts. We're now 270 plus episodes deep. We're live on Instagram as well, at Unfiltered with Casey Stern, and where a lot of you are artists formerly known as Twitter X, if you call it that, at Casey Stern. You can jump up into the bio, get on board to the YouTube channel, follow through, subscribe, like, tell all your friends to get all the content. 270 plus episodes now deep. Got a lot of recent episodes, including Rex Chapman, all the discussion of Ohtani, and much, much more. It is good to have you here. We'll discuss some baseball and some of what transpired on a Saturday, including the Mets failing. What else is new? Not only in the baseball side, where they're 0-2, but botching the revenge against Rhys Hoskins, and terribly so. The Yankees on the other side, which won't make Mets fans happy, looking pretty good, trailing in all three games. They came back again on a Saturday, and Juan Soto gets his first home run. Difference maker, go-ahead homer in the seventh inning. The Yankees have beaten the Astros all three times that open the season. And they haven't beat the Astros much over the last few seasons when it's mattered, albeit through the first three games. Impressive. We'll get into that. Speaking of impressive, how good have the Atlanta Braves been? Dominant. Got 9 runs on the Phillies bullpen in game 1. Beat them up again in game 2. We'll talk about that. The Orioles doing the same to the Angels, who are more of a sad story this season, clearly, than the Phillies are. And you should not be sad if you are watching Yamamoto, unless, of course, you're an opponent of the Dodgers. Dodger fans worry that Yamamoto wouldn't come through, panicking about his spring training ERA of 10.8 or whatever the heck it was in his first start over in Korea, but things have settled down a bit. One start, not obviously to make the difference for an entire season, but the transition coming over here was something you should have expected. The stuff plays and plays at a big level, and he has shown it here in his home opener against the Cardinals here for the Dodgers, which is now delayed as we do this here live in the 5th inning. As always, let me remind you, we are presented by our good friends at BetOnline. BetOnline, number one source for your sports betting needs. You get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports, baseball, basketball, boxing, golf, and more. They are the fastest and easiest way to get all your wagers. Your favorite casino and card games, they're all available right now, right from your phone. So get over to the website. Use your mobile device, sign up today, get in on all the action, but use the promo code BELIEVE. It's BLEAV. You'll get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. It is BetOnline where the game starts. I start here. I said this last night, but in case you missed it, I don't think the Rhys Hoskins slide was dirty. I think it was a little late. It was certainly legal, held onto the bag. It's an old school baseball play, and I don't think it was dirty. But even though I didn't think it was dirty, there was certainly a chance there would be some retaliation. There was a chance that the Mets would want to, send a message, if you will. That is part of baseball. Whether you like it or not, it's been a part of baseball for a very, very long time. And Rhys Hoskins, we'll get to this in a second, himself talking after the game about understanding that. We all understand it, but there is a way to do it. There are unwritten rules. I know you're sick of them. I know you hate them, but they exist. And talking to players over the last 2+ decades, they understand them. They all know, if you will, what time it is. And Rhys Hoskins would have understood, and so would I, if you had done it the right way. But what Ron Darling said in the broadcast, I want to expound on, if you hadn't heard it, because he was right. And that is the fact that the message that the Mets sent was hours too late. 7 innings too late. When Ramirez throws at him, way over his head, and by the way, I hate this garbage that it's been this way. Speaking of the way baseball is for years, we're going to lie and say the ball slipped. I mean, you get extra games in the suspension, if you will, if all of a sudden we're actually honest. We know you were ordered the code red, but that's why I have a problem with Carlos Mendoza because, and I don't mean in general, but he botched this. I mean, let's be honest. You do it in the first at-bat. You do it the right way. You don't throw over his head. You don't throw behind him. You hit him in the right spot. You move on, you go to first base, and Hoskins would have. If you look at, by the way, being fair, and they mentioned this in the broadcast as well, go back to the video. I love the way Hoskins handled it. He could have handled it a lot worse. Here was his quote, and I wanted to read this after the game. Just to give you an idea on how much you can understand. Big leaguers don't miss by 8 feet. Whether or not it was on purpose, it's not for me to decide. I don't really care. But this game has had a way of policing itself for many, many, many years. Let's focus on doing it the right way if we're going to do that. Again, he's telling you, and that's the player, that you can do it, but you got to do it the right way. And that's in the first AB if you want to send a message. You don't wait till the guys kicked your ass across the field all game, beat you up, drove in 4 runs, hit a homer, and then do it. Because instead of looking like you're tough, and there's an aspect of that. I don't know if people want to hear this. All right? So, sorry. But let's get to reality. There's an aspect of the Mets have looked weak for years. This has been going on. Met fans know this for years. Forget about just retaliating. There hasn't been a toughness, enough of it, to this team. There's been a lack of that in the culture of this team. It is what it is. Sorry. Call it like you see it. And everybody's seen it. So there's value to, if you really want to, and maybe it's more to defend Jeff McNeil, even if you don't think it was necessarily dirty, and that's fine. Sometimes you do that to defend your own players. But Hoskins would have understood it. He's telling you that. But only the Mets, the LOL Mets, if you will. And I'm a Met guy, right? That's the 86 plaque right behind me. But only the Mets could screw it up where you actually probably do the right thing in terms of, for your own psyche to start the season, and Hoskins has been on you as a Philly for years. You go out there and you hit him in the right spot and you move on. Then we're going to, people are like, well, they were going to run Severino because they ran Ramirez in the 7th. They were going to do that to Severino. It made it more obvious. Would have been obvious, but it made it more obvious when you wait until he hits the home run and drives in 4 freaking runs and then do it in the 7th inning like nincompoops. Then if you would have done it at the beginning, and yeah, the warnings, that probably sucks too, because then Severino gets a warning, and then the other side and Brewer fans are sitting there thinking, well, that's ridiculous. What do you mean? You get to do it to me, and I don't get to do it to you. And there's some dumbfounding nature to that as well. But if we're being honest, Severino not getting run in that spot if you do it the right way. You don't throw his head. You don't throw 8 feet over his head. You go ahead, and I hate to say it, you hit him in the right spot on the side, and that's it. Go to first base, and Hoskins would have done that. He would have gotten it. Even if he doesn't like McNeil, and clearly does not, even if he thinks McNeil's a crybaby, from a team aspect and a player policing aspect, he would have understood why the team would feel like they got to back their dude up. Maybe Lindor and others don't agree with it or whatever the case is. I mean, maybe he's saying, but they got to back him up. He would have gotten that. The Mets screwed it up. They did it way too late. And then instead of looking tough, you just look like idiots. And that's unfortunate. They came back, Beatty hits the home run, pinch hit variety off lefty, which is great to see. But they lose the game anyway. They're 0-2. Met fans with the 0-162 face now on Twitter. It's not going to go that bad, but not off to the greatest start. But just only the Mets. I mean, seriously, it doesn't matter who managing the team or what's going on. Only the Mets can find a way. I've always said that's so Mets. That was a very Metsy thing to do, to screw it up that way. Do it at the beginning, people. Come on. You screwed up that entire... First of all, it wasn't as dirty as you claimed it was. Second of all, if you're going to do it the right way. I'll stop. The other part of New York with the Yankees. The bad news for them today, DJ LeMahieu, non-displaced fracture in the foot. He'll be re-imaged, take another look at it, translating, in 2 weeks. And we'll see what the timetable is on that. A guy who really, they're a way better team when he's at the top of the lineup. And they're a way better team when he is a guy who consistently could be at the top of the lineup. But here's a team that doesn't have LeMahieu. Garrett Cole, they knew was gone, at least for a while, but then they find out 60-day on the IL. So now you're a long time without Garrett Cole. And what the hell do the Yankees care? Mark Stroman was great. 6 solid innings, threw about 100 pitches, I think, was really good in his first start. And here they are again, trailing for the 3rd straight day. They find a way to battle back. And then the 7th inning, Soto hits the go-ahead home run. And the John Sterling call is marvelous. The Soto photo. I mean, you wait to hear what it was going to be. But you'll be taking Juan Soto photos for a whole year. I've been saying this the whole time. The Yankees, they brought in Soto to woo Soto, and they brought in Soto to win with Soto. They brought in Juan Soto to keep Juan Soto. So the more fun the Yankees have and the more they win and the more he ingrains himself in that culture, the more, speaking of Mets, Met fans are going to be upset when he does stay or come to New York after this deal with his new contract, but it's with the Yankees, which very well could happen. Now, the Garrett Cole situation is going to be a problem. It hasn't reared its head in the first 3 games. The lineup looks way deeper. Volpe had his first home run. It's way deeper than it's been. Cabrera had 3 ribbies, I think, in the 2nd game of this series. It's been way better than it's been It looks way deeper than it's been. Soto and Judge are MVP candidates. They're two of the top hitters in the game. It's going to be a difference if they're healthy. Skinny Stanton, all that looking good too. But let's not get crazy. The Garrett Cole thing is going to be a problem. How they manage that and how much they can get and continue to get out of Nestor, out of Stroman, out of this group is going to be extremely important and imperative for them and interesting to watch. But Holmes gets the save. They lock it down. And for the Astros, look, life after Dusty Baker, a lot of the team's still intact. What are they going to do? Rangers 2 up, 2 down. Astros 0-3 to start the season. Speaking of 2 up, 2 down, let's talk dominance. AL East, dominance, NL East. Let's start on the AL side. The Baltimore Orioles are going to be ridiculously good this year. I still cannot believe how many people, and we're doing it Beyond Vegas and all these different websites, we're discounting the fact that even they're the clear favorites in the American League East, and they should be. Jackson Holliday should be here already. We all understand that. When he is, if he is long enough, he's going to win American League Rookie of the Year, and I think he's that good moving forward. And you already got the Rushmans, and you already got the Gunnar Hendersons, and we know about what you do now with Burns at the front end, who struck out 11 dudes in his first start, and the Orioles just pounded on the Angels again today, put up 13 runs. We know how good the Orioles are, but we need a moment for the Angels. Ron Washington, I love Wash. One of my favorite people. I got to spend a lot of time with those Ranger teams on the runs that they made, do a documentary when I was with SiriusXM on that team. I love everything he's about. And he's going to have a great attitude, and that team's going to have a great attitude. But that 0-2 start, look, the Phillies, who we'll get to, you're not as worried. A little worried after you saw the bullpen day one. You don't want to have Bryce Harper running into walls too much. Luckily, he's okay, but not that worried. They're playing the Braves. Maybe worried about the gap between them and Atlanta, but not that worried. But you should be, desperately worried about the Angels. Why Mike Trout still wants to be there, I got no idea. If I were him, I'd want the heck out of there. Nothing against Disneyland, nothing against Ron Washington, nothing against you, the Angel fans. I feel for you. But, this whole thing it's a mess. Got nothing for Ohtani when, to me, that's the worst deadline handling I've ever seen, ever. And remember, he wasn't hurt then. He was still pitching then. And they decide to pull back. Artie Moreno don't want to own the team. Then he wants to own the team. Then he doesn't want to give up Ohtani. And then all of a sudden, what do you know? A week later or 2 weeks, whatever it was, Ohtani's hurt. He can't pitch. The Angels get nothing. He's gone. And now Mike Trout sitting there like Tom Hanks in Castaway looking for Wilson. And there ain't no Wilson. Okay? There's no Wilson. Angels, not good. The Philadelphia Phillies, not as big in terms of overarching problems outside of, watching the bullpen after they gave up 9 runs in the first game. But the Atlanta Braves, the NL record last year in homers, you have 4 more home runs today. When you have an offense the likes of what they have, it takes so much pressure off of their pitching and off of their bullpen. When you throw Strider out there every 5 days, takes so much pressure off of their bullpen. They're going to have rested staff. They're going to be able to manage and handle innings. Brian Snitker will be better than anybody else because they're going to have so many times where they're up by 5-6 runs every game. Their offense does not get talked about enough or enough love for me still. No, they don't have Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, and Ohtani. No lineup has all 3 of those guys in it, and it may be one of the better trios we've seen in who knows however long. All to be debated. But top to bottom, and they'll miss Murphy, but top to bottom, the Braves lineup is it's dynamic and it's ridiculous. We're watching them close here where I live, see them all the time. It's amazing to watch. The Fried situation today and I got to touch on this. If you didn't see viral, I didn't look, I should have. It's my fault. Poo-poo on me. But I did not look at who the umpire was. Whoever the dodo was behind the plate, where the ball is literally right down the middle. I don't need the strike zone even from Fox MLB or whatever the hell the game was. The ball right down the middle, and we're not calling a strike? Are we blind? Seriously. You want to talk about the need for robots, or Buster Only has some tweet, the need for a challenge system. We need something. We all need therapy. If you're sitting there and you're Max Fried and his family members, or you're a Braves fan or a Braves teammate, watching a ball literally go right down the freaking middle of the plate, right down the pipe, and they called a ball. And it turned into, I think it was 3 runs. Didn't matter because the Braves scored, I don't know how many did they get. It was 10, 12. It's pretty crazy. Speaking of crazy, I want to go out west and say this about Yamamoto. I've been talking about this a lot, and Jerry Hairston was on a recent, this is not to plug the podcast, but he was on a recent episode of the podcast. He, of course, does great TV work, a longtime friend of mine, does a great job with the crew with the Dodgers. But he was talking to me about the fact, and I was discussing with him, that one of the things that we do not pay enough attention to are guys, and it's usually high-priced, highly touted draft picks, not high-priced players in this case, like $325 million pitcher, but guys who have never failed before. And when they come, they're the best of everywhere they've ever been. Best in school, best in high school, best in college. In this case, best to, Cy Young levels, 1, 2, 3 times over, at least the parallel to that, over there, and never struggle. Then you're dealing with a different ball. Then you're dealing with certain pitches that you throw. They're going to spit on here, big league hitters, where they wouldn't have where you were pitching overseas. And then all of a sudden in spring training, where everybody's working on stuff, and so are you, now you realize that people are having some angst because your ERA is like 10. But it's all right. We'll fix it. We'll go into the season. It'll be fine. Then you start in the first game of the season. What happens? You pitch terribly. And now there's more questions. And now all of a sudden you start questioning yourself and your confidence. Anyone, and certainly I have no idea at that level, nor do most of you, unless your players watching, God bless, thank you, good to have you. But most of us have no idea what it's like to succeed at any level doing anything to that level, right? Especially athletics. But if you're succeeded in anything in life, no matter what you do, all the time, and then suddenly you're not good at it or you're having trouble, I don't care what it is, you're going to lose confidence. And that was the thing that I was wondering about, how the confidence would be for Yamamoto. Now, Dodger Stadium, home debut. Is this going to take a while? You know what the stuff it's going to play. If you haven't watched the stuff, if you haven't seen, I feel like George Carlin, a lot of stuff. If you haven't seen the stuff of Yamamoto, go look at the stuff. Go get it. It's terrible. It's terrible. But go look at it. The curve is nasty. The split. He got all the tools to go dominate, and he's going to be great. But the question was, how long would the transition be? And I had a question of whether or not the confidence would play in after the rough spring and the rough first start. But even though, again, as I do this live, and who knows, after the delay being long, I doubt he'll come back on the mound anyway. But 4 innings, no runs, 1 hit, 4 Ks, no walks, 51 pitches, 36 of them are strikes. And again, if you haven't seen it, go watch the video of the first inning. I mean, it's just nasty. Absolutely nasty. We've already got stars that are coming out and dominating. We've got great storylines. We've got teams that are off to great starts. I think certainly the Yankees got to now be talked about a lot, the way that they've won these games. I know it's only 3 games. And in the midst of all that, just to go full circle, the Mets tried to be tough. And, I don't even know what. It's the Mets. What can you do? We are Unfiltered. You can do this. Go to Instagram. We need you. We just started over there, and it's like starting from scratch on MySpace, and Tom's my only friend. Get over there at Unfiltered with Casey Stern. Give us a follow. Jump on board the YouTube channel, which you can get in the bio if you're on X watching us. Of course, to all of you who listen the normal way, where a lot of you are, Apple, Spotify, everywhere you get your podcast, we thank you for being on Unfiltered. Busy week coming up. We got a lot of baseball going on. I'm happy to have, speaking of old friends, Ariel Helwani coming on to talk some UFC 300. I do other sports here on the podcast. We do some basketball. We get into football. We get into baseball, of course, a lot. But we do combat sports and some other stuff as well. So hopefully we'll see you again soon on Unfiltered, where we, as always, are presented by our good friends at Bet